Today, Rachel K is back, and we're unpacking the stuff everyone thinks they're handling well, but absolutely are not. We're talking about why conflict avoidance is basically a slow leak in your relationship. Plus, Rachel drops some seriously helpful coaching insight about cooling off before conflict turns into a silent treatment standoff. If you've ever tiptoed around someone, swallowed your feelings, or survived a holiday with that one relative, this one's for you. Welcome to another episode of Dawnversations, and welcome back to Rachel K. So happy to see you again.
I'm so happy to be back.
Yeah, I love talking about relationships, and we were just talking about if you are just a relationship coach, because it's kind of life coaching too. So go ahead and expand on that to introduce yourself and then tell people exactly what you do.
I'd love to. Again, I'm so happy to be back, Dawn. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
And I love the work that I do, mostly because I don't just work with people on relationships. We always end up talking about career. We don't only talk about romantic relationships, we also talk about family stuff that comes up. I was just saying to Dawn that when I worked with my athletes on their athletic mindset for performance, we inevitably talked about their families, their relationships, their jobs, what was happening for them in school, really because our lives aren't siloed as much as we wish that we could just compartmentalize. Like, well, work stays at work and I'm
Yeah.
totally different in these other places. That's not really like how our minds work. Like, we take the same consciousness with us to every part of our life. And so it's influencing everything that we do. So I work with people on creative things, like I work with creative folks. There's just a million places that this work goes. So my focus is on relationships, honestly, because I find it the most challenging and I like a challenge. And I think it's relationships can be so rewarding, and so often they end up not being as rewarding. So that challenge is why I picked relationships, but we work on everything.
Yeah, well, in relationships, it doesn't have to be romantic.
Right,
You have
exactly.
relationships with your siblings, with your parents, with your employer.
Yes,
Relationships go across the board. So we had mentioned that we wanted to talk about conflict avoidance. So when I first start talking to you about this, I'm talking about it in a very general way.
absolutely.
My question is for the people that like to avoid conflict, they say, I just don't like conflict. Do, um, do they realize the impact in that it can almost make things worse sometimes for people to not speak up or to not get in the middle or not make waves?
Mm,
That can sometimes allow people's negative behavior to continue
mhm.
because they're not hearing otherwise from anybody else. So let's talk about that.
I love this question. And honestly, there are so many impacts to relationships and also to our general lives if we're really conflict avoidant. And I say that as someone who was very, very conflict avoidant. I was terrified of conflict when I was in my 20s. Um, I did anything I could to not rock the boat. And the funny thing for me is that I had a lot of emotional intelligence pretty young. And I thought that I was being emotionally mature by not bringing conflict
Oh,
into my relationships. And this is like a trick that our mind plays on us. So we say, "Oh, well, it doesn't bother me that much." Right? So I would get upset with a boyfriend and, be upset and I would feel all the feelings, and then it would turn into, no, it's not that big a deal. Like, whatever, maybe he didn't mean what he said. Like, I'm probably taking it the wrong way. I don't want to make a big deal about this. And really what was happening is that I was just scared of taking up too much space in my relationships. I was scared of standing up for myself. I was scared of being disagreed with and rejected.
mhm.
And when we allow fears to rule our relationships, they're just not as satisfying as they could be. Inevitably, we end up resentful. We also often turn to other ways to express conflict, and mainly being passive aggressive is the big one. So, if we're conflict avoidant, we do tend to be passive aggressive. We might be sarcastic. We might forget to do something we said that we would do. There's like all kinds of ways that that shows up. But conflict avoidance, very generally, like you're saying, is really about avoiding something that we fear.
Right. And I mean, there are people out there that thrive on debating and
Yes, they
arguing.
sure do. That can be a cultural thing, honestly. My partner's family is Italian. They like get into it, and it's that's connecting for them. So there's nothing wrong with debating. Actually, the Jewish religion is very much about debating what the Torah means. That's like part of the culture, and that's
Oh,
beautiful. That's very that's like rich. It can be rich.
yeah.
It's when we thrive on antagonism versus just like debating that that can become a problem.
Right. And okay, so on the other side of the coin, so you
Yeah.
have Joe, and Joe doesn't like conflict. So Joe is going to just be like, never mind, my thoughts and opinions don't matter, or they're
Yes.
not that important. I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
Well, you have Joe's wife,
Yeah.
Mary, and Mary is doesn't like the fact that she can't bring anything up because Joe doesn't want to get into it.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not that big of a deal, but Mary wants to talk about it. So I
Yes.
am like the Mary. I like to, no, let's get this settled. Let's figure this
Yeah.
out. Like, I'm not going to
Yes.
just sit on this. I don't want to just wait it out, see what happens. It
Hmm.
can cause so much conflict because they may see it as they're being easygoing
Yes.
and their significant other or friend in their family, whatever, is
Yeah.
like, no, you're actually not giving me a platform to say,
Mhm.
I don't agree with the way this is going.
Yes.
So it can create a lot of conflict by just staying neutral.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's
Um,
maddening.
yes, I can absolutely see how that would be maddening. Yeah, there's something about conflict avoidance that can lead us to like deflect seriousness away from us. I've been in relationships with people who, whenever I brought up something hard, they would make a joke, and it made me crazy.
Yeah.
Um, just like made me crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and then you feel like you're the one who cares the most in the relationship, about what's happening, and the other person doesn't care at all. And so this like, one thing that came up like, oh, I'd like to talk about this thing that's not working for me in our relationship. And, partner two makes a joke or deflects in some other way or says, like stop worrying about that. That's not a big deal. Well, now the conflict is not just about this like little thing, it's about this larger feeling of I care and you don't care.
Right. Yeah. Who
Yeah.
cares the most about the relationship?
And then, yeah, and then you're not only fighting, and I'm saying fighting because perhaps fighting isn't happening. You're not only feeling this desire for completion or communication about one thing, you're also like fighting for the relationship itself. And so, yes, it becomes much, much bigger when we can't receive feedback or receive somebody else's like challenging emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to talk about boundaries, but before I do that, um, my husband and I came to an agreement
Mm.
probably 6 months ago or so
Yeah.
that if it started to get heated
Yeah.
and started to seem like maybe it's bigger than what it should be, or,
Yes.
we're getting to very elevated,
Hmm.
take some time away. Both of us agreed. We would just say, time out, let's take some time. And then whenever the person felt ready, they're ready to talk, they're cooled off, whatever, they would go and sit at the table, at the our
Oh,
dining room
okay.
table.
Yeah.
And that signals the other person, okay, they're ready. I'm not ready yet, but as soon as
Right.
I am, I'll come sit at the table. But that was just kind of our signal. Okay. Because what we were doing prior to that, silent treatment. Silent treatment.
Oh,
Isn't that fun?
oh
Just such a
God, it
fun
like makes
environment.
the skin on my neck crawl when I hear silent. Oh, it's so uncomfortable for everyone.
It is, but it's just like, who can hold it all in the longest? And
Yeah.
then you just get more and more mad, and then the stories build in your head, and you're just furious. And
Oh yeah.
it just doesn't ever seem like it gets solved.
No, because it turns into a power struggle instead of a team looking at a problem that they want to fix together.
Yeah, because you don't want to be on the same team. You're mad.
No, exactly. I'm on my side, you're on your side, but you better get on my side. I'm not coming over there.
Right,
Right?
right. So that did seem to help as far as taking the time away so you don't say something you'll regret, because that's
Yeah.
so easy to do. And words
Yes.
are just so powerful, and you
Mhm.
could easily say something that you cannot unhear.
Can I just say this is a great strategy, and I actually love the silent signal of like, now I've come to the peace table, and I'm ready to have peace accords with you.
Yeah.
I think there's something so powerful about recognizing when we're no longer in a state where we can listen to each other and just going, you know what? This is not productive. Like, let's like cool off. I think that a lot of us, if we fear conflict or if we fear disconnection, sometimes we latch on and we're like, we cannot stop talking about this until we figure it out. And it makes things so much worse. So I love this strategy.
Oh, good. Thank you for saying that. No, he very much is like, walk away. We're not in the right mindset to talk about this
Yeah.
right now. And I'm like, where do you think you're going, mister?
Yeah, right. And then what can happen, like they just feel overwhelmed, so they leave. But for those of us who want to talk it through, we feel abandoned and rejected. And so, like, again, like something that started out being about one thing becomes about something. I'm like making a mushroom cloud gesture. It like turns
Yes.
into this big nuclear event.
It's so true. And
Yeah.
if like the next day you're talking to your friends and you're like, yeah, we got into it last night. What were you guys fighting about? He didn't put the milk away. And they're like,
How
wow.
we load the dishwasher.
And it turned into that. And it's like, I don't
Yes.
know how it turned into that, but the fight is never what the fight is actually. Like, you could have hostility about him leaving the milk out from 4 months ago, but
Right.
he doesn't know that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so boundaries.
Yeah.
Um, this is in all relationships.
Mm.
For people that obviously do not like conflict,
Mm.
but maybe it's their mother-in-law, maybe it's their, if they have to go to the in-laws for holiday time, we'll just
Sure. To make it
and
topical.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we're getting to holiday season, and say that oh God, I don't even know, for instance, but something that a mother-in-law, where maybe you just feel sensitive to any comments she makes anyway.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But there's one thing that she does, and you just know that it makes you feel upset.
Yeah.
How do you bring it up? When do you bring it up
Mm,
so that it doesn't blow up like that? Like,
yes.
I mean, I know it depends on what it is, but in general, how do you bring it up to a reasonable person?
Mm,
So the boundary is in place so that they know I can't do that, because if I do that, she may not come over here anymore or whatever it is.
right. Sure. Yeah. I love this question. And I love your distinction between someone who can hear feedback and someone who is not capable of hearing feedback. Like, I think, especially when it comes to families, these are people that we have not chosen to have in our lives. They're people that are just in our lives. And as someone who did estrange herself from family members in the past at the advice of a therapist, a part of me regrets doing that. It's not always the right decision, to just cut people out of our lives, even though that's kind of a popular way of dealing with things right now. The opportunity for us is in recognizing that community doesn't have to mean a group of people who all agree with us exactly perfectly and who behave the exact same way that we do. So this distinction, like people who can hear feedback and maybe accept it, that's different. But I would also say a boundary is less about asking someone to do something differently for you or to not do something, and is more about sharing what's going to happen if your boundary is crossed, and it's like ours to enforce. So an example might be, this comes up around the holidays. I don't want anyone commenting on my body shape or my weight or what I'm eating. So I can't go to, my in-laws, just as an example. They would never do this, by the way, but I can't go to my in-laws and say, listen, you can't comment on my body. Like, don't do that. That's not setting a boundary, that's making a request. And it places the power in their hands, whether or not they accept my request or not. A boundary is when I say something like, listen, it really bothers me when you comment on my body or when you comment on what I'm eating. And so if you do that, I'm going to go sit in the other room and I'm not going to like engage with you, or I'm going to leave because I can't engage with you. That's setting a boundary, and that puts all of the power in my hands. I've said exactly what's going to happen. So I've basically given the warning. I'm not just like leaving without saying what's going to happen. Um, and they have an opportunity to test the boundary. Hopefully they won't. But if they do, then at least they've had like ample warning to know what's exactly is going to happen when it happens. In-laws are tricky because we want to include our partner in
Yeah.
kind of the communication about this, because really the partner, the person whose parents it is, they should really be the ones who are communicating with their family members. This just like the unit is the couple, and the parents become ancillary once this couple is
Mm-hmm.
committed to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, all right, that's my wife. Like, you cannot speak to her about what she puts on her plate. If you do, then we are going to leave. That's a great way that a child might set a boundary with a set of parents who might not um, be so good at holding boundaries. Is this making sense so
Yes,
far?
it is
Okay, great.
100%.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is now let's say they are not reasonable people.
Yeah.
These are people that you know are probably going to be like, what? Like you're taking that serious? You can't
Yeah.
even take a joke?
Yeah.
People like that are harder to deal with.
Yes.
And then I also feel bad for the person that is in the middle, the
Yeah.
child
Oh,
of
yeah.
these, because maybe that's how they grew up. And
Sure.
so to them, it was air quotes
It's normal.
normal.
Yeah. Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we're not supposed to say that you are taking too many helpings or that you're looking
Yeah.
chunky.
Yeah.
And, to me, it's just absolutely mind blowing that anybody would comment on anybody's body, let alone family.
Right. Yeah.
But it happens, and not just to women,
No,
you
it's
know.
true.
So to me, it's just crazy that that would be a norm, but
Right.
it is for some people that maybe that's just how they grew up and that's how they act. So I agree. So then the spouse or whoever would have to step in and say, hey, okay, we're not going to talk like that. She doesn't
Mm,
like it. He doesn't like it. It upsets them.
yeah.
And yeah, it's so icky and touchy. But guess what? It comes out around the holidays. And that's why
Yes.
people drink and get in fights and block their
Which makes it all
families.
worse. Right? We're traveling. We're often having more drinks than we normally are. We're eating weird food. Like, nobody feels at their best. Like, nobody feels the
Right.
healthiest that they feel over the
Yeah.
holidays,
Yeah. It's
right?
so
Like, you're
true.
stuffed full of turkey. Don't talk to me about my weight. I cannot.
Right. My blood sugar's out of
No,
whack right
exactly.
now.
Yeah, and when it comes to people who, can't be, who you can't really make, who are not going to respect boundaries, one, a negotiation can happen with a partner, right? So let's say that that's the case for somebody. They have a family member who is just nasty. They can't be reason they're going to be that way.
Yeah.
The family deals with it. I hear about this all the time, honestly. The family deals with it. The, in-law who is, not part of the original family is like, this is crazy. I don't want to be around this. That, as long as the spouse understands and supports the other spouse who's like, I'm not going to be around your brother. Like, he really bothers me. It like hurts my feelings when he does these things.
Hmm.
And that's like fine. Like, nobody needs to be obligated to spend time with people who are really cruel or otherwise like impossible. That's not,
Yeah.
we
How
don't
do
have to
you
do that.
how do you do that? Like what does that look like? Is that the person that just can't tolerate it anymore, just doesn't attend
Yeah,
anymore? Just go
it could
without
be.
me. Go ahead.
Yeah, it could be. Everyone has different levels of tolerances, and I always like to encourage my couples to be really creative. Like, don't just decide what you want. Um, he the person who's problematic, like, maybe should not be allowed in the family home. Like, he insults the decor. And so you can't come to my house, but I'll come visit you at your house and my wife will stay home. Like those kinds of negotiations happen all the time in relationships and marriage because we don't need to dictate that our partner can't see their family members. That's again making a request and controlling their behavior when really our focus wants to be, okay, how can I make sure that I feel good in my home and I'm not putting myself in positions where I have to be on the defensive from someone who is cruel.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
just saw a video, a guy explaining boundaries, and he said if you, I don't know if you've seen this, but he said if you treat it like the camera that if you go speeding by and the camera gets your license plate and you just get
Yeah.
mailed a ticket
Yeah.
and you learn I can't go too fast past that camera, and then if you accidentally do it again, then you get mailed another ticket. Eventually you get trained
Yes.
to you don't go fast anymore around that area. So
And
that
that's the
metaphor.
challenging part for folks who are conflict avoidant is sometimes they're good at like setting the boundary, but they're not good at enforcing it. So they feel guilty or it feels like overwhelming to basically like stand up for themselves. Okay, okay, I said that I was gonna leave. Now I'm gonna leave. Like it feels too awkward or for some reason
Right.
it's hard to enforce it. And the consistency is really important because it's self-betrayal to not enforce it.
Right. Yeah, because there's no reason for anybody to dread the holidays.
Yeah,
I
let's not.
mean, other than just like if they've had a loss, in their family, of course they're going to dread the holidays without the
Sure.
special people in their lives. But actually dreading the holidays for the people that you have to interact with that you absolutely cannot stand, or every time you think about it, it gets you anxious and nervous and just like, oh, I hate Christmas. We always have to go and be around those weirdos.
Yes.
But when you said it was like, not popular, kind of trending. I don't know if it's part of my algorithm. I have seen so much of it lately of people like, "Oh, I don't talk to my mom, my dad,
Mm.
everyone. I haven't seen my family in 10 years." Or
Oh,
it's I am close with my family and I'm very grateful for that,
yeah.
but it does seem very prevalent right now. Is it a trend?
I think there are a few contributing factors. One of them is that younger generations are more and more like uh, that mental health stigma is lower on them. And so when they feel dysregulated by another person's presence, they're a lot more attuned to, I do not feel good right now. Um, Now, to some extent, like other people don't owe us comfort and safety all the time.
Right.
That's just not
Yes.
a part of like nature.
Yeah.
It's okay for us to be uncomfortable or offended. It's not okay for us to feel unsafe, but those are different things from each other. And I think sometimes offended and unsafe are conflated at each other. Now, I do think that like, if a person comes out as gay and their parents will like not see their partner or they have,
Mhm.
kind of like cut off aspects of that child's life, then yeah, like they're going to have a limited relationship with their child.
Hey there, quick heads up. Next season is going to be a whole new beast. I can't tell you what it is yet, but I'm cooking up something fun and absolutely unlike anything I've done before. So brace yourselves, or don't. It'll be fun either way. I cannot wait. Back to the show.
There can be growth opportunities in recognizing when, okay, I'm offended by this person or I don't really like them. What is that for me?
Mm-hmm.
Because there is some sort of like a trigger is always an opportunity for us to understand something better about ourselves. If I'm triggered by, I'm looking for an example. If I'm triggered by, a messy house, what is that telling me about me? Like it's not affecting me. I'm not going to get sick here. It's just a little untidy. So why does that bother me so much? Um, we have to like really think about what the effect is that it's having on us. Am I being harmed or am I just uncomfortable or offended? Those are, again, very different things, but they're often conflated. I will also say that there, for a long time, uh, parents were given kind of an all clear to treat their children however they wanted to. And that's changing because of this, like, we're so much more educated on mental health. And so we can say, it's actually not okay that my mother has no boundaries with me and wants to know everything about my life.
Hmm.
Like, I actually like to keep some things to myself. And we might have to do some separation in order to find ourselves when we have been really enmeshed or codependent with a parent or a family group. That's not abnormal, but permanent separation should be the result of ongoing abuse and harm versus offense and discomfort. Again, very different things.
I am so glad that you said it like that. You said a couple of things that were perfect, so powerful. That you just really have to assess, but not at a knee jerk or not when you're in the mindset, like just coming off of a holiday where it went terrible and you're like, I'm never talking to them again. Like you
Right.
really have to sit with it for a while. And what do I want? And what is it that they are doing? And is it something that I can tolerate for 3 hours on Thanksgiving?
Yes, a
And then
couple
just
times
be
a year.
like, see you next year. Yeah.
Yes.
So, if you don't mind me asking, and if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but you said you regretted after hearing from the therapist to maybe cut ties. Did you reconcile with that family after a while
I
or?
did actually. When I originally estranged myself, my father was an abusive alcoholic. We had a bad childhood. And what I found is that he was using contact with me to manipulate my brother and sister,
Okay.
who could be a lot more sensitive to him than I could. And so I decided to cut ties because I didn't want to be used as a pawn to like hurt my brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened for, I mean, a pretty long time. Later, after I no longer had post-traumatic stress disorder, I remember I actually got back on I hadn't seen my therapist after I was, cured from my PTSD. I got back on a call with her a few years after that, and I was just like, I think I'm thinking about welcoming my dad back into my life. And she was pretty like, no, don't do that. Like, why? Like, what are you going to
Yeah.
get out of that? And I think that's another piece of this too, is that sometimes we can accidentally train ourselves to treat all relationships as transactional. If I'm not getting anything back from this person, why should I have them in my life at all? Now, I think that that can be valid for chosen relationships like friendships. Like, if a friendship is not reciprocal, why would you keep giving to a friend
Right.
who can't give back to you? Now, with a parent, that relationship is automatically going to go through a period of, okay, the parent gave everything, ideally. When you're little, you get less and less. And then they go through a period where they're essentially regress. And that's what happened with my father. He was an alcoholic until he died, had dementia. And I pretty much welcomed him back in my life during a brief period of sobriety, which was actually very rewarding. I remember having actual conversations with him that I had never, and I was, was in my early 30s, and I'd never actually like talked to him and had him listen to me and respond to me. It had always been him talking at me, and me listening to him.
Right.
So that period of sobriety when we could have a relationship was very rewarding to me. And we fell off the wagon, and it went back to, we really like couldn't communicate. He was just not capable of it. But it did leave me at least with some memories of him as having an adult relationship with him. Yeah, so I don't regret my period of estrangement. It was right for me at the time, and I'm really glad that I came back when I was ready to.
That's fascinating. It really is. Like, was he aware that he had a problem? He just could not stop it. And so did he try and quit often?
He stopped drinking for very brief periods. And when I was a kid, and we would always get excited, and go, "Oh my gosh, he's not drinking," and we would get very excited about it, and inevitably it would happen
Yeah.
again. The
Yeah.
last time that he was sober, he actually went into therapy for the first time, which was very good. He went into rehab. He Yeah, the rehab and the therapy I think made the big difference for him, and I did actually see it really help him understand himself. And you know, addiction is so tough. I understand um with a lot of compassion why my father turned to alcohol
Mm-hmm.
to numb a lot of very terrible pain that he had in his life. The worst possible things happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
So this part of me can understand, yeah, like, I can understand running away from that, and really not being able to hold it, especially again at his age. Like him going to a therapist was a miracle in itself, right? Like mental health
Right.
is not something that we ever would have discussed or
Yeah.
entertained. Um, so yeah, his period of sobriety where he was in therapy, that was the best one, and it lasted the longest amount of time. Um, I still don't know exactly what happened that created his falling off the wagon, but unfortunately, when we're addicted, when we experience any of that type of pain, he might have been reminded of something of his childhood. He might have felt lonely, and that those feelings can be so overwhelming when we're older too, and we're living by
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, right? That, like one beer doesn't seem like a big deal, and then it just cascades from there. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I quit drinking 2 years ago and I talked to a few recovering alcoholics and they said
yeah,
it's actually just the disease of more. You can't just have one.
oh, yeah,
You need more, whether you black
yes,
out, pass out, whatever you want to call it. And
yes.
that is really what I felt was my issue as well. So I can
Oh,
totally relate to that. It's,
mm,
did your siblings still have contact with him when you did not?
yeah.
Did that cause conflict between you and your siblings then? Or it was just like,
No,
you do your thing, I'm doing mine?
they were actually very supportive. My siblings and I are all very emotionally intelligent, like much more than we have any right to be considering our upbringing. But
Probably
we're
because of your upbringing.
It's definitely possible. They were always like, "Oh yeah, we get it," and they would like let me know if something was happening, and they would say, "Can we tell Dad about this about you?" And I'd go, "Yeah, fine," or "Don't tell him this." But yeah, they were always supportive. We are generally very supportive of each other. I feel appreciative of that.
Yeah, well, I'm just happy for you that you got that window of opportunity to reconnect with your dad at an age where it left an impression on you and it's not all bad. You
Yes,
can look back on it and be like, well, we did reconcile and things, ended as well as they could have. So that's always
yes,
a good thing. But I think when there is an addiction involved, it's very touchy, especially around the holidays, because if
oh
you
yeah,
know you're going to go over to so and so's house and they are going to be loaded,
yeah,
not just
yes,
fun, happy cheer, let's have,
right.
a little hot toddy, but actual just not. What do you think it's best just to avoid, just to, if you know you're walking into that, do you
Hmm.
think it's best just to say, I'm going to keep away for this holiday? Do you
Hmm.
actually tell the people, I just can't be around you during the holidays, tell them in June when the
Oh,
holidays
sure.
come, like
Yeah,
what's the
when there's
best way
plenty
to
of time.
handle that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the individual. For me, I don't mind being around drunk people. It's never bothered me. Um, I could say I'm used to it, like from a young age. It's
Yeah.
never bothered me. Um, I don't like being around people who like scream, like
Yes.
yell. Like that's my limit. That's when, if that were to it hasn't happened as an adult, but if that were to happen, then I'd be like, well, I need to take a walk. Anyone want to go with me? And I'd be like, let's go. And
Yeah.
I just get to like separate myself. But I think that if someone is struggling with an addiction and they're like, oh, I know someone's gonna be really drunk there. I'm gonna feel tempted. I do think it's okay to take care of ourselves and say, I just can't be around that. If it's discomfort, um, I think it's important to recognize when we may have, I'll gesture for the camera, capital T trauma around like addiction.
Hmm.
If someone in the throes of an addiction is very like it reignites traumatic experiences for us, it's okay to take care of ourselves. If, on the other hand, we've done a lot of work, we've been to therapy, and we can, experience that kind of discomfort without being thrown into a full blown like regression or trigger, then it's okay to just say, oh, they're getting really drunk. Maybe, oh, it's getting late. I gotta get going. Like,
Yeah, that's my cue.
or I'm only going for dessert. Like, I'm not going to go for the whole meal. I'm just going to stop by for dessert and coffee. Or, if it's Christmas, for
Yeah.
presents. Like, you can come up with all kinds of creative ways to have a holiday.
Yeah, you're right. That's so true. I just love talking to you. You give such down to earth advice, and it's advice that you can use. I mean, it's like, it's one thing to hear a bunch of things, and it's like that I can't make that work.
Right. Yeah. That
So
sounds very
no.
idealistic.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and again, I just feel like everybody should be able to enjoy the holidays as much as possible. And when I hear about people that just dread going to all the
Mhm.
places that they have to go, and they're like, I can't stand so and so, and I hate that I
Yeah.
even have to spend. I mean, it's your holiday too. You want to be able to
Right.
enjoy it. So yeah. I feel very lucky that I don't have to deal with any of that.
And you say lucky, but the thing is, we create our lives. And so you've created a life now where you can say, I get to enjoy my holidays. And maybe I'll get a little annoyed, but it's not going to completely derail my ability to experience. It really should be one of the most joyful times of the year. It's very hard when we lose the light. We need to keep things as cheerful as we can to
It,
get through. I'm in New England, so I have to be very good about cheerful, like holiday time, really like getting into the spirit, because it's a long winter up here.
yeah, no kidding. When you don't see
Yeah,
the sun for months.
it's bad.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate your time. I'm so glad you came back, and hopefully, people will heed this advice for the holidays so that they can have a good holiday. But yeah, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Don.
All right, bye bye.